Welcome, everyone, to the Humanities Team Community Circle call today with today's special guest, Sue Andra Lyon. I'm Dee Meyer, and I'm here with Nanette Rogers-Kennedy. We are the co-coordinators of Humanities Team Community Circle program. Humanities Team has over 100,000 teammates in 150 countries. We would like to thank you, our donors, and our volunteers for your support of Community Circle, formerly Spirituality in Action. Without your financial nurturing and in-kind donations, we would not be able to do our work in the world. We have access to many extraordinary speakers, and today it is our great pleasure to share with you Sue Andra Lyon. Sue is bringing in tools to create a life of love and creativity through realizing your connection with your higher self, Source, Mother Earth, God. We will be covering what is possible when you learn to listen to the world around you. By listening to all creatures and Mother Earth, our connection is strengthened. Through the energy of oneness, we create heaven on earth. And by using the knowledge Sue will be sharing with us today, you will empower positive change to bring out the very best of you. We will take a few questions today, so if you're on the phone and have a question that you would like to ask Sue, press 1 or 2. And if you're on the webcast, you can enter your questions and comments on the Q&A. Please give us your first name and where you're listening in from with your question or comment. Now, Nanette will introduce you to Sue.
Thank you, Dee. Sue Lyon is an author and an artist living in Boulder, Colorado. She believes that the empowerment and the creative spirit resides in every one of us, individually and collectively. This is a powerful guiding force. All we need to do is listen and believe. Welcome, Sue, to the call.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. One of the first things we want to do is have you read your book, because I think that'll be a great jumping off point for the questions that are going to come afterwards. And so that would be really awesome if you could read the book, and you might even want to mention, because we don't have visuals over the telephone.
Right.
But you might want to mention, how it's kind of a two-story book, because I thought that was really interesting before you start reading the book.
One of the dilemmas of reading a children's book without the visuals in front of you is, I believe in children's books anyway, that the pictures tell the story. And when the kids can become engaged in the pictures, then they're more willing to listen to the story. So what I did on this book is, what I do is I use ink and colored pencil, and this story was told to me, and what I did was tell the story back through the book, and then along the edges, I have all these facts. So I have aspen trees and pine trees and columbines, flora and fauna. I have facts about Mother Earth, and those are all lining the edges of the illustrations, almost like sticky notes, along the edge. So there are two ways to engage the kids. One is just the story itself, and then one is to get the kids excited about what they're learning and their environment around them. So that was kind of the two-story approach.
I love that, and I want to also add that I believe that this book is from children from 3 to 103.
Oh,
it's very, very inspiring. So,
thank you.
Well, if you want to, go ahead and start reading.
All right. Believe me, magic can happen when it's most unexpected. A bunch of kids and I were having a lot of fun camping. The wind had raced through the pines all night, rattling tent flaps and nerves. So with breakfast cooked earlier and pocket lunches consumed, the girls took a break in their tent. As they started singing their favorite songs, I settled down near the fire circle with a wildflower book. The sun was bright, but I pulled my jacket close to squeeze in a little bit more heat. Little did I know that a touch of magic had begun. I began to hear low musical voices They were so quiet, my ears squinted to hear the words. The sounds came again and again. Suddenly, I realized the words were not from people. I moved my eyes to the stately trees standing together like families, tall and small, all laughing and chattering in the wind. I carefully picked my way through some wildflowers to a knobby rock outcropping. It was home to pines, aspens, squawbush, and a bunch of curious animals and twittering birds. Magical voices swirled and twirled all around me. They whispered in my ears and played with my curiosity. I began to realize wise Mother Earth was including me in one of her ancient stories. All I had to do was listen inside my heart, and I finally heard the words. And this is what they said. As in ancient times, the trees grew strong and tall, taller than all the other creatures. And because the sacred Creator gave all things gifts, so they were given to the trees. Great gifts they were, too. Shelter for busy birds and scampering squirrels. Roots for the homes of burrowing and bunking animals. Sweet-scented blossoms holding nectar. Bark housing insects of lovely colors. Canopies of shade in the heat of the day. Strong trunks feeling the tiredness of people stopping to rest, and the fur of many animals sleeping through the night. And the trees shared their gifts with love and generosity for eons. But day upon day, they listened to the sounds of the earth creatures speaking to each other, of love, concern, sadness, and praise for one another. Sweet sounds of tenderness, quivering voices of fear, loving murmurs of mother and child. These enduring trees began to desire voices too. So the Creator called a council. A young tree spoke with respect and clarity. Its elders stood touching the tips of the little tree's branches as it made its request. We hear the voices of your creatures all through the year. Even in the blackest nights and fearful storms, they utter sounds that affirm they are all connected, one with all. This we desire. And the young one grew expectantly silent. Oh, pardon me. The Creator nodded thoughtfully. Soft breezes ricocheted playfully from trunk to trunk. Tails and noses twitched, and animals gathered patiently awaiting an answer. Grasses chattered on, pushing the news farther and even farther, bending and bowing in waves. You grow larger than other creatures on earth, the loving Creator spoke slowly. If I gave you big voices, they could frighten your neighbors and make them feel small. So I will give you voices that rise and fall with the breezes, ones of quiet melody. They will comfort when there is sadness, and they will chatter happily when there is joy. With that promise, the trees immediately raised their branches, swaying in thanks and delight, whispering. And to this day, the trees speak to one another as the wind rises. Their rippling laughter and woeful worry, murmured love and cheerful clamor, all are tossed into the air to travel from one to one and one to all. And they have lived with this happiness ever after. Suddenly, the sounds of these stately trees standing in the wind took on a whole new meaning for me. I was honored by being included in Mother Earth's storytelling. And that night, after tasty s'mores and singing around the campfire, I glanced over my shoulder across the wildflower meadow, past the rock outcropping and into the smiling trees, and began to tell the ancient magical myth about how the trees got their voices. So that is the end. But then the hope is that the children go back and they start reading all these facts around the edge. And along the edge, I ask questions, too. For example, the illustration that had the lake in it, I ask if if they live close to an ocean or a lake or a big body of water, and what do they like the best. And another illustration I have, the one with the people stopping to rest, is actually a farmer with a tractor in the field, and it shows the passage of time. So I have an owl sitting on the edge of the moon on the facing page, and I asked the children, is it possible for an owl to sit on the edge of the moon? So the hope is that the kids become engaged in the facts around the edge and start laughing and, telling their own stories to each other. That would be so perfect.
It's a very, very interactive book, and Dee and I were talking. It's funny you mentioned sticky notes, because that's what we were calling those little blocks.
That's great.
Around the edges.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. The images are gorgeous, and when we send out the replay information for this, so people can listen to the call who are not listening live, or for those who want to listen again, we'll send out a graphic so people can get the idea of just how beautiful the illustrations are. And one I want to point out, too, I really do love the one with the farmer up against the tree, because there's something about that drawing that I can feel the tree in my own back. And
good. Perfect.
Yeah, so it really was wonderful. And I also love the one with the roots and with the animals all burrowed in below, and and you also get a little bit of facts. Like, I really didn't know that a bear was born in hibernation. So I learned something new myself.
This is good.
Yeah, so it's just a beautiful book, and I want people to know that these pictures are half the story, as you said yourself, Sue. Well, one of the things I want to ask you at this point, before we go into a little bit more of the book, is tell us, a little bit about your life's work and how that led to your spiritual path.
I honestly, I knew, I went clear through high school knowing I was going to be a physical education major. I played all the sports, I lettered in the sports, I double lettered in some of the sports, and I just knew that I would go to school, I would go to college and become a teacher and of physical education. When I got up to college, I met my brother on the sidewalk. He was going to the engineering building, and we chatted a bit, and he said, well, now that you're here, take some classes that you never dreamed of taking before. And I said, like what? I mean, I had taken all the math and sciences, everything that I needed to get me prepared to be a PE major. And he said, take an art class. And I laughed at him. I said, I've never taken an art class. I mean, elementary school art. And he said, yeah, but you like it. So I did. I took an art class. It was a drawing class, and it completely changed the way I thought about things. So I spent the first year trying to figure out how I could double major in PE and be a teacher, and major in art, and what would that look like? I had to make a living for myself. So the third quarter, I actually changed my major to graphic design, and I never looked back. Graphic design allowed me to use that math and logic part of me, helping come up with solutions for clients, and it also allowed me that imagination part of me to come up with a different design. But what really set me on my spiritual path is when I started doing artwork just for me. I started doing drawings, I did basket making, I did, fine art, macrame. I did many different art forms, but drawing was always the lure. I loved to draw. And it was an interesting thing. I could call myself a graphic designer, but I couldn't call myself an artist. I didn't think I stepped up to the plate to call myself an artist until I was, in many years had passed, and I finally called myself an artist. But when I started my small art business of doing drawings of animals, drawings that came to me through music. Lots of my drawings come to me through music, and started creating just a line of drawings that I felt I really stepped into that spiritual place where I was very, very much connected with a universal energy of creativity. And that's what sustains me. I'm hoping that I bring that into the children's books that I'm doing, because I think children are just an incredible open vessel to that kind of creativity. They learn as they get older, not to be paying attention to that creativity, but while they're young like this, and if we have an influence, if we have any kind of influence, is to allow them to be creative and think creatively, and that is their connection to that huge spiritual, energy up there called love, and that's my goal in my work.
Well, and so will you do me a favor and read that last page that you didn't read that talks about oneness?
Yes, I'd be glad to do that. We are all connected. We are all living beings on an amazing planet. It is up to us to be guardians of our beautiful Earth and to be in awe of what she provides. Now is a good time to listen to her stories in the wind.
I love that. I think
Thanks.
That's so beautiful that, if you don't mind, I may be posting it just as a quotable quote on Humanities Team Worldwide Facebook page. It's just, I love it.
That'd be great.
It's beautiful.
That's great. Thank you.
And you're welcome. And so, what was that moment in your head when you said, I'm going to write this book called How the Trees Got Their Voices?
I have 2 daughters, and I was a Girl Scout leader for each of my daughter's troops. And one of the things I really, really wanted to do with my Girl Scouts is to take them tent camping. And it didn't happen very often, even around here, in Colorado. There are lots of leaders who, just are reluctant to take their girls tent camping. They'll take them out to a lodge, something like that. But I like tent camping. And we were in absolutely a beautiful spot up north of here, and had our tent set up. It was a really blustery day when we were setting up the tents, and we had to get dinner cooked. And then that next day, so the wind really did rattle the flaps of the tent. Mm-hmm. And the next day, everyone was kind of chilly and a little frazzled, not enough sleep. And I said, go to your tent and do some singing. And they did. They were very grateful for that. And that's when this whole story was told to me. I was sitting studying the wildflowers, which I love to do, and I still do. And I kept hearing these words, just like in the story. I kept hearing these words, but I couldn't quite figure out what they were saying. They're very low, very melodious. And when my eyes swung over to the stand of trees right there on the edge of our camping site, I went, oh my goodness, those words are coming from those trees. So I walked over there to this rock outcropping, and I just stood there, and this story started just pouring into me. And my first thought was, oh my goodness, I need to run back to my tent and get a tablet, and write it down. And then I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to be gone. It will be gone. I won't have received the story. So I stood and just received this story and was totally amazed. And when the story was done, I realized, oh my goodness, we need to start getting the fire ready. You build a fire and you get coals and ready to cook. So it wasn't until after we were around our campfire that I was actually able to relate the story to the kids. And then once they were settled in their tents, I went back to my tent and wrote it down. Then, when I got home, I wrote the story more formally, and, within a couple months, I had started putting down designs, just pencils, just on tracing paper, just pencils, the working drawings. And, life caught up with me. I had 2 daughters, all the details. I was doing freelance work, all of this kind of stuff, and it sat for years. The story sat for years. Till one day I said, I need to get that story out again, because I'd never forgotten the story. And I got it out again. I rewrote it. I revised it. I fiddled around with the drawings, and I said, all right, I need to get this done. I didn't know what it was going to happen to it, whether I would have to self-publish. It didn't even occur to me. I knew I needed to get the story done. And then one day I was working with Karen Stuth and Julie Lohr on another project, and I had asked them, because Julie is an author and Karen is a writer and also a marketing person, if they would listen to my story. And they did. And then that started the business partnership with Karen Stuth and her publishing company to get the story out to the masses. Get it out to the masses. So,
Karen, I was just going to say that it's awesome. Take it away, Dee.
I agree. Karen is just a remarkable person. We really love her, and so glad that she introduced us to you.
Thanks.
I just want to share with you that we have several people writing in that they loved hearing you read the book.
Oh.
And let me go grab another question we've got coming in. Give me just a second. It's from Dawn in Bermuda. What was the response from the Girl Scouts when you spoke to the Girl Scouts?
That is an excellent question. That's the first time I've been asked that question. The girls were totally engaged. They weren't goofing around. This was at dark. This was after dinner. All the work of getting a meal cooked and the dishes washed, because it's just a lot of work in camping. Mm-hmm. And they were all snuggled around the campfire, and they were totally engaged. And then when I went back to my tent, they didn't have any questions. I said, and that's how the trees got their voices. And I said, it's time for you guys to go to bed. So they scuttled into their tent. It was cold. And then when I went back to my tent, my co-leader was in our tent. She had brought her younger daughters, so they were snuggled in the tent. And she goes, Sue, that was a great story. Where did you get it? And I said, it just came to me. But I needed to get it written down. So I didn't want to spend too much time talking about how it happened. I just needed to get the words down. And by that time, she and her daughter were asleep. So then I snuggled into my sleeping bag. But thank you, Dawn. Good question.
It is. It's such a gorgeous book, and we cannot do it justice. But I would like to invite you to tell us about the beautiful artwork and how the trees got their voices. Can you describe the process and how you selected the animals and the trees? And, again, what medium did you use, colored pencils and ink?
It's ink and colored pencil, and I use Prismacolors. I think those are the richest colored pencils that I've used. And also they are light fast. They're probably the highest quality pencils that I've ever used. That's an interesting question, because one of the things that I like, there are 2 parts of a children's book. Well, 3 parts. There's the story, the written story. Then there are the illustrations. But then there's the design of the book. And the design of the book is figuring out how the illustrations are going to be presented and what do you do with that text. So that all has to be designed into the book. Me being a graphic designer, that's a really fun part for me.
Yeah.
And so what I tried to do in the book is I tried to have some close-ups of animals in the roots of the trees, for example. Mm-hmm. But then I tried to have some bird's eye view looking down at the earth and seeing the Milky Way. One of the spreads is talking about some of the planets. For example, Jupiter has 63 moons. So, and then I also tried to show the passage of time. There's the passage of time in one day, 24 hours. So you see that on the spread that has the farmer and his tractor. And then there's the passage of time in a year. So in my thinking, I wanted to have a lot of variety in the book. So I started with the scene of the campsite, and then I went into a bigger view of Mother Earth. You see Mother Earth's face in the ocean. So you see a bigger view of the earth. And then you see the close-ups of the insects in the trees and the close-up of the animals in the roots of the trees. One of the things I learned a long time ago is draw what you know. So many of the animals are animals around here. But as I did more research on them, they're animals from lots of different places in North America. I used deer, for example, and deer are in many, many places in North America. So it's not just picking up, I was not just drawing exactly what's around me or in the foothills right here or in the mountains in Colorado. There are animals and birds and flowers and those kinds of things that children can see from even if they're in New York or if they're in Ohio. So that was a lot of my thinking on how do I make this work for a broad audience of kids out there.
It's not just kids. Nanette is right. It's from kids from 3 to 103. I think even younger. It's just simply gorgeous. The images, the words. You have such a grasp on showing movement of air, for example, with the leaves moving. It's just beautiful. It's like a dance, a feast for your eyes. So I'm really curious about your creative process. Doing any kind of art takes discipline, and it's quite obvious you spend a lot of time creating these beautiful images. So I'm curious about what does your routine look like?
I'm a late night person. I prefer to get up. I tell all my clients I'm in my studio at 9 o'clock. But I work late, and I get a lot of inspiration from music. I have season tickets to the Boulder Philharmonic. I go to the Takash String Quartet, which is an internationally acclaimed string quartet that just happens to be based in Boulder. And any time that I'm sitting and listening to this kind of amazing, big, well-performed music, I get visual images. I think of music as being incredibly visual. And when so I'll jot down some ideas. I try to be very discreet, not to interrupt anybody else's focus, but I'll jot down ideas and many times bring those images back. So when I work at home, I don't always have music on. Sometimes I have the windows all open and I can hear the wind outside or I can hear the birds outside. But there are times where I put on certain kinds of music and I'm just totally immersed in that music and lose all track of time. I think that's what it does for me, is that I lose all track of time. There's a very left brain part of doing a book. There's the part of writing the story and editing the story. Then there's the part of working a drawing up and then reworking it and then tearing off part of that drawing and, reworking it again and doing research to make sure I have the right coloring on the bird or the right details on the Luna moth, for example. I wanted the Luna moth antennas to be right. But then there's that right brain part of doing a book where I don't get so submerged in the details that I can't come up with the creative imagery, the shift of colors, the things that make it just fun. It just makes it fun.
Yeah.
So I work the story, and then I work the thumbnails. I work the book out in thumbnails, just these little tiny drawings, to make sure I've got the right image on the right page for 32 pages. Then I work those thumbnails up to half-size drawings, and then I work it up to working drawings, which are what I use to do the final drawings. So once I get the working drawings, I put the drawing on the back of my drawing paper, put it on the light table, and I redraw the drawing with all the details in it. So that's how I get the bones of the drawing, you know, the right size, the right detail, the right proportions, everything that I want in that particular spread. I use my light table for that. And then I go back in and I choose colors. One of the things I don't want to do when I'm doing any kind of drawing, whether it's a children's book or whether it's one of the poetry drawings that I sell regularly, I don't figure out any of the color ahead of time. I actually force myself not to think about color. I think about shape, about proportion, about the line drawing itself. And then I allow myself that flow of energy that comes in that creative place to add the color. So, for example, on the spread with the farmer and the tractor, you'll notice there's a lot of purple in that drawing. The sky is really purple. That's not a real, I put that in quotation marks, sky color, but that's the color that needed to be in there. What I felt at the time needed to be in there.
It's so funny. That's what I'm looking at as you're talking. That was exactly the image I was looking at and listening. It's just absolutely
then once I get the drawings done, then I get digital files made, whether I scan them or I take them to my photographer who gives me really big 70 meg files, for these drawings. And that allows me to get them into the computer, and I do all the rest of the design work in my computer. So the end product then is I can send a file off to the printer, a high-resolution PDF off to the printer that they can use in their pre-press process to set up what they need to do to actually come up with a book like this.
Yeah.
So that's my process. Did I answer your question?
You did, and it's just been a delight. I just so enjoy this. Even on that same page we were talking about with the farmer and the tractor, the way you have the trees shared their gifts with love and generosity for eons, the print and the movement within the print is just stunning. So I'm sorry for everyone listening that can't see this with us. It's incredible.
Oh, thanks.
Nanette, over to you.
Okay. That was very fascinating and interesting. And I've got a couple questions from listeners on the webcast.
Okay, good.
And one of them is actually a question I was going to ask you anyway, but I'm going to start with not that one first. I'm going to start with this other one. And this is from Craig in Illinois. And he says, I can't wait to purchase your book for my 2 young daughters. Just from the text in this conversation, I can't wait to see the artwork you are all talking about. I could picture in my mind's eye some of the graphics anyway. I'm trying to write a children's book about angels in nature, and I have no training. I get the ideas for the story for my children. When I'm writing, I often stop right then and draw the picture that is in my head. Does that happen for you, and is there a right way and a wrong way to go about mixing the writing and the drawing?
Oh, these are such good questions. Craig, I encourage you to keep drawing down your ideas, and don't put the onus on you that you have to come up with the perfect drawing, the professional drawing. Even if you decide later on that you want to work with an illustrator, and I would encourage you to seek out an illustrator, but to work with an illustrator, me as an illustrator, I love seeing what my client comes up with. In fact, when I have a graphic design client and say a client wants a logo, I give them homework. I ask them to go out there and find things they like and find things they don't like. Well, I think it's the same way in a children's book, that when me as an illustrator can look at what you have in your head, even though it's not professionally done, it helps me understand the energy that you want to put in your own book. So I think that's really very valuable. And, you know, you can put these images down. You don't even have to show them to anybody. But if you don't put them down, then they can be lost. I am scribbling ideas of things. I've got flat files in my studio, and I've got 2 drawers in my flat files that have the bones of drawings. I mean, I've scribbled them on napkins. I have, you know, little bits of tracing paper and computer printer paper, and I've got bigger ones that I've kind of worked out, and I throw them all in this flat file. I have enough to last me to the end of my lifetime, you know, of drawings that I've just kind of gotten an idea of. And I think they're wonderful. That's like keeping a sketchbook and just having them there at whatever time you want to dig them out again and go, oh my goodness, I need to work this one up. There's no right way or wrong way. I guess I have to amend that. I think the wrong way would be that you don't ever put down your idea. That would be the wrong way. The right way is put your ideas down, put them on get yourself even a sketch pad and stick them down in there. I would encourage you to date those pages so you have some history going on in there, and just really pursue the writing on that angel book. And, you know, in the end, you might put the energy out to the universe that you and an illustrator and a designer, because you need an illustrator and a designer for that book, that you all meet up. That would be the perfect scenario.
Wow. That was very, very interesting. I dabble in writing myself, so it was very interesting listening to your process. I don't do the drawing thing, but just the whole writing business.
Yeah.
I have another question. Well, let me first, for people that are maybe joining us late, you're listening to Sue Andra Lyon, and we're talking about her book, How the Trees Got Their Voices. And so far, this has been a very, very pleasurable conversation. And I have another question from Carol from Pennsylvania, who's also another writer, and she's trying to write some oneness stories. And she's unpublished but would love to be, and she wants to know how you went about funding your book, which was a question I was going to ask you about the process of fundraising, but I think all of that come from Carol.
I think that's a very good question. I have to say that self-publishing is really big right now, and there are different ways that you can go about doing it. I have the wonderful pleasure of working with Karen Stuth of Satyama.com, who Karen is an independent publisher, all connected to the oneness of things as well. She started a Kickstarter effort. I think there are 2 big ones, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but there are other ways of doing crowdsourcing as well. And Kickstarter is a crowdsourcing site where you can put your project onto the site, and there's some specific things that you have to go through. You list how much you want to raise and, you know, what your project is about. We put the cover of the book on there, and we put some spreads of the book in there. The thing about and then, of course, you have to let everybody in the world know that you have this Kickstarter effort going. So I sent the link out to everybody in the world that I know, all my clients, all my friends and family, and Karen did the same thing with her list. She has bigger lists than I do. The thing about Kickstarter is if you don't raise the full amount, you don't get anything. So when that happened, we didn't get the full amount raised. So she started an Indiegogo effort. And with that effort, you receive everything that you've raised. And, of course, Indiegogo and Kickstarter take a percentage of the sales. That's how they keep their website going. So with that amount of money, that crowdsourcing, Karen had enough money to start the printing process, which was wonderful. We are so grateful. The cool thing about crowdsourcing is that it takes a village. There are many, many people that can contribute a small amount to an effort and make the effort successful. And I think that is just a really important thing to remember, that it takes lots and lots of people to make something become magical. And I am very grateful to everybody who contributed on Indiegogo, on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I think there are also other people in the world who are interested in contributing to a good effort. And maybe it isn't through Indiegogo, maybe it is through a family member, or you have a person that has heard about your book, for example, and says, this really needs to get out to the world. So put your energy around that as well, because there are really wonderful things that happen because of that.
Well, thank you for that.
Did I answer the whole question?
Yeah, I think you did. And
okay.
I've worked with the crowd resourcing myself, and it does take a village, but it's very doable. So I want to encourage Carol that it's doable.
Yes.
And you just need to kind of stick with it, because it's a little part-time job in itself. But when you think of what you're asking for, and for the reason, because it's mostly for passion. Whenever I look at different campaigns, they're very passionate things. So it's doable. And then I just wanted to add, before I turn it back over to Dee, that Craig, that you answered about the angel story he's working on, says, thank you very much, Sue.
Oh, you're welcome.
Over to you, Dee.
Thank you. One of the things that I am so impressed with is the community of supportive people that you've placed around yourself, Sue. Can we talk about community? And,
yes. It's not just fundraising. I'll go back to Carol's question. It is really wonderful to be able to fund a project, but there is so much more to the community that's built than just the people who contribute money. And I don't want to diminish that, but there's more. I had people encouraging me. I mean, this book took a long time to come to print, because I kind of took some time off there and raised kids, and it took a long time for it to come to print. I had people that reviewed the book who encouraged me years afterwards, Sue, have you gotten that book written? Have you gotten that book done? That I have family members who have supported me in every way possible, to encourage me to get the drawings done, to contribute money to the effort. I am amazed at how many people have shored me up, have given me advice, have put in their 2 cents worth on, those trees and the impact that trees have made on them, which of course has encouraged me to get this book out. I think that's the community. The whole thing is the community of people that allow a project to come to fruition. And I think the more energy that I put into it, the more meditation that I put into it to call in, the love and support that I needed to get this thing done, it manifested. It all manifested in this book.
I'm thinking about your community of people as an artist, as a writer. Those are kind of solitary practices. And so, but what I see is that you have this community of supportive women. You have this dynamic group that is you're connected to and a part of. And I'm so inspired by that, inspired by how you're creating your business life, your community life. I think it's really amazing.
Well, that is a really interesting thing, issue that you bring up, that here I am. I'm a freelancer. I have a full-time graphic design business. I have many clients all over the U.S., and I work alone. For a long time, I was in a corporate situation. I have been a employee of art agencies and art studios, and then corporation for a long time in the visual design department. I had people around me, but as a freelancer, I work alone, and I'm comfortable with that. My artwork is done alone. A lot of times it's done late at night. I'll find myself at 2 a.m. and go, oh, gosh, I guess I better go to bed.
Right.
One of the things that I learned about this is how I needed to reach out to other people. That it's not just other people coming to me somehow, amazingly discovering that I'm working on a project. It's me, opening my arms to other people and saying, I want you, I need you, I seek your advice, what do you think of this idea? I started an art group, some years ago, and there are about 5 of us that meet fairly regularly. And one of the things I want with this art group is that we can really share our ideas with each other, that no idea is stupid, no idea is a failure, that we all support each other and we all listen to each other. I have one person that says, I'm taking watercolor class and I just am not there yet. And we can say very honestly, yeah, but look at the improvements that you've made just in this one class.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's maybe one of my lifetime lessons, is for me to be able to step out of my own secure, individual place and allow other people to help me along the way. So,
yeah,
good
just
question.
Developing your community, developing this support group that is friendship, that is just so rich and makes life happy.
It does.
Yeah,
that's good.
So your book is dedicated to your daughters, and I loved the dedication. And can we talk about parenting and how the creative process and this connection of oneness has played a part in your life as a parent?
I have learned a lot being a parent. I don't believe that I was particularly spiritually connected, or I wasn't aware, consciously spiritually connected when I started a family. And parenting is hard work. I mean, it's not just all, it's just hard work. I mean, you put yourself in a position of being a parent and not necessarily a friend. But one of the things I really tried to do when my kids were growing up is to have art supplies available, to have music available. My oldest daughter actually majored in opera, and to allow them to be creative whenever they could. And all the kids in the neighborhood would come over and say, Sue, can we do art? And it just expands that whole creative energy. I believe that we are in a place of oneness when we are creating together. People lose themselves in the color and in the form and in the project that they're working on, whether they're little kids just standing around the table and gluing googly eyes on, or actually getting a little bit more sophisticated about the project that they're working on. And it shows up in lots of ways, that kind of creativity. It shows up in just the way that the kids play games or make up things or, play house or cooking. My oldest daughter loved to cook, and she'd make up recipes. And I think all of that brings in a oneness of creativity into the household. Now my daughters are grown. They're both very creative individuals. They show it in different ways. They're not illustrators like I am, but they show their creativity in many different ways.
I just love the whole process. I think it's fun, and it's teaching your kids to have fun, and I've enjoyed that piece of the conversation. I've enjoyed this whole conversation. It's been really great. Nanette, I'm going to turn it over to you here.
Okay. Just so you know, we're coming down to 5 minutes left. We told you this would go fast.
Man.
And we have to do a little bit of business after we give you a little bit more, or another couple questions here. I wanted you to tell me about your affirmation decks and other products that you have, and but just start with that, and then I'll ask the next question.
Okay. I have done lots of drawings, and many of the drawings I call my poetry drawings because I used to teach calligraphy, so I have words and drawings all combined together, and I have created 2 affirmation decks using these poetry drawings. Each one of them has 30 cards in it with drawing on one side and an affirmation on the back. They're all very positive messages. They're all a gentle nudge to see things a little bit differently, to love yourself, to, maybe this is a good day to wake up to your own talents, those kinds of messages on the back. They come in a tin. I like tins. They're recyclable and reusable. Mm-hmm. I also have another deck of spirit animal cards. There are 50 animals in this deck. It can be used as an oracle deck. Native Americans believe very strongly that all animals that cross your path, all living creatures, bring a message. So as through the years, I have studied the animals, and I have had so many experiences with animals crossing my path at just the right time, that their messages are just so perfect that I went ahead and did a whole series of drawings. They're fairly small, intimate drawings with lots of symbolism in each one. They are also in a tin. And then the little mini decks, I call them mini decks, are small cards on a key ring. There are 12 drawings in each of these little mini decks. They're perfect for sticking in your purse or, putting on your backpack anytime that you really would like to focus a different energy, just to focus yourself. You can grab one of those, pick out the one that speaks to you at the time, and you have it. It's ready to go. So, and I have several of those. I have 10 or 11 of those little mini decks. I also have prints of the work that I do. I have a whole huge line of greeting cards. I've got bookmarks. I've got my 2015 calendar out now, which is a calendar that's in what would be like a CD case, and there's a different drawing for each of the months. So there's a different card for each of the months with the dates on it. So lots of products.
Well, I'm amazed that you do all these different things that you do and these different products. And if the book is anything like these other products, those affirmation decks and the keychain things, are those geared to adults, or can they be for children? Or
they're geared to adults, but older children, there's certainly older children would be able to read them and understand them, particularly as they get older. But they are geared for adults.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, because we want people to be able to purchase your products, and you've given me some ideas for people in my family for the upcoming holidays. And when you said the 2015 calendar, I about fainted thinking, oh, my God, I can't believe it's already... It's just,
I know it
after
is.
Halloween, and then it's Valentine's Day. It's like, what
well,
happened?
and then it's a rush to the end of the year. It's really true.
I know. I saw them putting up Christmas trees, the ones you buy for your own home, out at my grocery store last night.
Oh my
but
goodness.
I wanted to. I know. Where can we purchase your products?
The book can be purchased through Satyama.com, SATIAMA.com. It's also on Amazon. It can also be purchased through my Etsy site. Etsy is a site that was set up for artists, and it's just a great site. And I am Sue Lyon Inc. Sue LIONINK .etsy.com, and I have many products on there: greeting cards, prints, key rings, affirmation decks, and I just put the book on there not too long ago, so that's all available there. I also have my own website, SueLyon.com, which is not quite up to date. I don't have the books on there or anything like that, so really I recommend that you go to the Etsy site.
Okay, and then as soon as we get finished with this call, because I'm doing multitasking with the production of this call and trying to talk to you at the same time.
Okay.
Can you email me that link so that when I send out the email to those that registered, I will include those links in that email. And,
okay, that's great.
Anyway, do you have any final parting words that you'd like to share with us as we wind this up?
I think I really encourage people, to put down their ideas, to write what's in their heart, to read. Become your creative self. I really encourage everyone to do that. It's possible for everyone to bring out their creativity. And working with children is just, they are such vessels to be open to all the possibilities. That if you have an opportunity to read to children, then I say go and do it. I think they're fascinating human beings that are they're so open, they are so accepting of what's put in front of them. I have found children reading this children's book, and really they don't even want to listen to the story sometimes. They're just looking at the pictures. If you do nothing but just open a book of great illustrations, children will get lost in it, and they will start thinking of their own ways of being creative in their lives. So I really encourage people to do that.
Well, that is a
thank you
great
so much for.
Well, I want to add one thing to what you just said. If you think about, you said the book is really two books because of the sticky note comments and facts, and then you have the written word, and then you don't even need to look at the written word. You can be engaged and pulled in by the artwork. It seems like it's three books in one. So I just want to say that, and I want to tell you what a pleasure it has been to have you on our call, Sue. And we will send out a note with, praises and where they can listen to the call and where they can buy your books. And Dee, I was just going to ask you if you wanted to say any last-minute words before we do the close.
No, just thank you so much, Sue. It's been a pleasure, and we'll look forward to being with you again sometime soon.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful for me.
Well, it's been wonderful for us. And thank you very much. In real quick fashion wrap-up here, Humanities Team now has a space on our website that's called humanitiesteam.org/upcoming-events. And you can see when our next calls are. And our next call is Wednesday, November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving. Neil Donald Walsh, our founder, will be talking about CWG, Conversations with God in a Nutshell, and that's where he discusses the most salient and powerful messages that he received from God. And then Thursday, December 11th, and there'll be other calls in between here, I'm sure, but the next call we have posted and people can register for is the 12 Spheres of Life call, which is on Thursday, December 11th, and it is on the sphere of spirituality, and Neil Donald Walsh happens to be the one that will be featured in that call. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming to the call, and we will look forward to our next one. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
You are currently the only person to Maestro Conference. Please enter the conference PIN number followed by the pound key.